Welcome to MGT552, Leadership and Social Impact. Hi, I'm your subject convener for this session. My name's Hetty Bryant. And I'm just going to go through a little bit about the subject and just to give you a bit of an orientation. So firstly, there are three overarching questions for this subject, and they're very much focused on how leadership is enacted for social change. So the first overarching question is, how do our organisations impact society and how should it impact society? Okay, so how does our organisation impact society and how should it? Is our growth sustainable and responsive in a changing world? So this is a really big question, but it's a very, very important question, which you'll go through as we move through the subject. What are leadership strategies for creating social impact? So we'll be looking at frameworks and strategies and approaches for creating positive societal impact or social change. So at the end of the subject, I'm just going to go over the learning objectives just to reinforce what the subject's about and what we hope you learn during the subject and the skills and knowledge that you'll have at the end and the practice as well. So first of all, you'll be able to identify, critically analyse and discuss leadership that impacts both organisational performance as well as broader social outcomes across private, public and non-profit contexts. So what that means is we're looking more broadly than you just narrowly focusing on your organisation or your community. We're looking at what you do in your organisation and or your community in the leadership space will have influence and impact on the broader society. It's not just an internal thing. It's much broader, and that's where social change occurs. Be able to effectively articulate and discuss complex challenges in achieving social impact. So we'll go through a number of scenarios. We'll use a number of different theoretical frameworks. There'll be case studies in your text and in some of your readings where you'll be able to look at some of those challenges that others have faced and how they approach those in a leaderful and leadership way. Be able to research and apply established theories to your developing theoretical framework for the practice of leadership in the face of adaptive challenges. So the more and more we will have challenges that are getting bigger, they're adaptive challenges. They're also called wicked problems, and we need to be able to address these so that we can have social impact, social change. Be able to interpret and transmit different ways of framing leadership in the context of social impact. So there's a lot of theory here, but we want you to apply it and frame it in your practice. And finally, be able to put into practice learning about leadership for social impact and identify opportunities to practice social impact leadership. So we'll be wanting you to be using real-world examples. We want you to actually see how you can enact part of a social change project as part of this subject. But I'll go on to that in a minute as well. I don't want to overwhelm you too quickly. So the essential elements of this subject are, first of all, there's a number of theoretical frameworks and practices, and we're drawing on some key areas. So the first key area is Theory U, which is your text, Leading from an Emerging Future. Otto Scharmer's work, some of you would be familiar with this, some of you it'll be new, and I'm hoping you'll get quite excited about it. And there are also resources on the Presencing Institute as well, and I'll have links to all of those on the subject site. So that's Theory U, that's what it looks like, Theory U. Self-Leadership, the Navigator. The Navigator was produced by the Centre for Social Impact. Now, the Centre for Social Impact is actually located in Australia, and I'll have the link to that, and there's many resources we draw on from that as well. There's some really, really good readings and really good approaches in there and work that they're doing. And then there's the social change leadership model that was developed by Sonia Espina and her colleagues. And we'll actually be looking at that all the way through too. And that's based on 3 different approaches as well. It's looking at a whole range of different things, but I won't go into detail about that at the moment. But you can look at this PowerPoint later on, and you'll also see it through the subject as well. But these are different models and different approaches and key resources for this subject. Some of the other essential elements, the leadership theoretical frameworks and practices are based on collective and collaborative approaches, so more distributed leadership, relational and co-creative leadership, so where you co-create a difference, where you co-create change, where you lead together. It's not just one person doing it. It's not just one person above the others. And I'll show you the picture of that in a minute too. I'll put that up now actually. It's relational. It's dialogic as well. So there's a lot of storytelling in this. There's a lot of talking with people in your organisations, in your community, in a very collaborative and dialogic way. And it's through distributed and inverted power as well. So the power is distributed, and the power doesn't come hierarchically. It is inverted. The power comes from the people. So it's moving from an ego approach to an eco approach. So from an ecosystem approach where man's at the top to an ecosystem approach where we're all equal. So the 3 things we'll be mainly looking at are the reframing of the discourse, the way we actually dialogue with each other, the way we look at norms. So framing the discourse of leadership as well, what we think leadership is, and bridging differences between people and unleashing human potential so that people can be the best they can be. We'll also be looking at presencing, which is based on Theory U, opening minds, hearts, and opening the will. And then moving from the me to the we, that ecosystem to ecosystem approach. Now this might all sound very, I suppose, soft, and in some ways we could say that, but what we're looking at is a more compassionate approach, a more inclusive approach, where we work with others together and we try to distribute that power as well. So as we move through the subject, you'll get that more and more. And I hope I haven't overwhelmed you too much by just talking through some of the underlying narratives and principles of social change leadership. But a lot of this is about self-leadership as well, okay? So leading yourself so that then you can lead others. Just going to move on. And the organisation of the subject, we have 12 weeks with a Christmas break, which will be very much appreciated by everyone. We use the Interact2 learning site. Pop on the learning site, have a really good look. Most of you, I think, have already done a subject at CSEU. If you haven't, make sure you navigate that. Let me know if you haven't, and I can also assist you as well. There are lots of resources there to help you under getting started. Okay. Online meetings, we have a schedule. So on the left-hand side, there's all the links for the subject. If you go to the left-hand side, start clicking on those links to find out more. There's the online meetings, and on that you can see the online schedule and recordings, and that's where you click on that, and the schedule for the online meetings and for the subjects there. Also, I should have mentioned first of all, the most important link to start off with is the subject outline link right at the top. Click on that and everything's there at your fingertips, the assessment criteria, everything. So have a good look at that first, and then I've tried to repopulate that at the different links on the subject site. And then the other way we're organising this is it's very much based on self-leadership, as I said, reflective practice, but it's also leading with others. So a very strong underlying premise of this subject is action learning. So that will be in the discussion forums, so I really urge you all to share on the discussion forums, but also we're going to be setting up action learning groups or sets. So after you submit your first assessment, I will put you into small groups, maybe 4 to 5, 6 people. There's about 18 people, I think, in this subject, so there might be 3 groups. And in that group, you will share what you're doing in your projects, what you think you're going to do, share resources, and I'll come in to the first meeting and then some other meetings just to get you on the right track and so that you actually understand what you'll be doing in that action learning area as well. Okay, and so there's the action learning. That's a way of action learning, and you'll learn more and more about action learning. I'll talk more about it in the assessment videos which I'm producing, and I'll also talk more about it in the first online lecture. The ThinkSpace, which is a blogging space, is set up. MBL students, Master of Business Leadership students, are expected to use that space. I do encourage others to use it as well, though. It's great for setting up electronic career portfolios if you want promotion or you want to go for another job. It's very, very good, and more where organisations are looking at electronic career portfolios. There's key milestones. The first assessment is due on the 25th of November. That's where you'll scope the project you're going to do. The next assessment's due just before Christmas, and that's where you'll review the literature and research and prepare your research proposal for assessment 3, which is an action research project. You'll get a chance to have a bit of a pause over Christmas while I mark your assessments, and then we'll start again after Christmas and you'll be into your action research projects. I do need to note that it was an online lecture for the first week back, and I'll put this on the site so you don't have to remember all this information. But the first week back of session in January, the Interact 2 site will be down for maintenance. So I'll make sure that you all know this way ahead of time, okay? So don't worry about thinking too much about that now. References, it's always good to look at where I get all this information from, and most of these are already in your subject site as well. So I thought I'd pop those in. And then there's my contact as well. And I'll make sure that I include this PowerPoint as a link as well to you. They're my contact details. Always best to email me first to set up a time to talk to me. I'm normally here on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. I do work part-time. And if you need to ring me from outside the country, it's +61. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to working with you and facilitating your learning in this really interesting and different subject. For those of you who have come in from other courses, from the MBA, from the Master of Commerce or whatever else, there is a focus on leadership, but there's also a very strong focus on social business, social enterprise and social change. So I think you'll get a lot out of this. So thank you all, and I look forward to meeting you all in the subject. Cheers.